Hi and welcome to Best in Tesla. So 2022 is now over. We have most of the numbers for the year and can make some pretty good guesses about the things we are missing. So how did Tesla do in Europe, where people said Tesla would have a very tough time in 2022 because of all the competition that was coming out? And how did the competition do? Well, let's check it all out and let's dive right in. So, Tesla did win the EV race in Europe in 2022, hands down. Last year, it was a close race. I thought Tesla came in as number 2, but when we got the last numbers during the first 3 to 4 months of 2022, Tesla actually ended up becoming number 1 and ended up beating the Volkswagen brand with only a little over 600 EVs. So a very close race in 2021. But in 2022, there has really not been any doubt the whole year. Tesla was in front pretty much from the beginning and stayed there through the whole year. And Tesla's Model Y seems to be the new home run. I think it will end up being just over 100,000 units sold in Europe in 2022 as the last numbers ticks in here in the beginning of the year. So that is only the second EV in history to sell over 100,000 units during a year. The other one was of course Tesla's Model 3 in 2021, which sold 131,000 units. So the big EV leader like the Renault Zoe that in 2020 sold 87,000 units have fallen a lot. If it is lucky, it will end off the year with about 20,000 units in 2022. But it's not only the Zoe. Like the Kona is also down, the e-tron is down, the Leaf is down, the Mercedes EQC is down, the I-Pace is down. So many of the old models of EVs are down, but even Tesla's Model 3 is also down. But that is probably because Tesla has been focusing on the Model Y in Europe this year, which has skyrocketed in sales in 2022. So still, Tesla with only 2 models has sold more EVs than any other car brand in Europe, even though many of the others have come out with a lot of different models this year. It does not look like any of them have actually skyrocketed, and their old models seems to be losing their momentum. The biggest loser in the EV race in Europe actually seems to be Volkswagen, even though they came in at a clear second place, so that's great, but the brand seemed to have lost maybe 30 to 40,000 units from its sales in 2021. So they actually did shrink in sales numbers in 2022, it seemed, as did Renault. But Volkswagen was supposed to be the king of the EVs in Europe, right? But they were also hit pretty hard with the war in Europe because their suppliers in both Ukraine and Russia. So 2022 was again a special year with a lot of headwinds for everyone. So I hope we will have a more normal year in 2023. But if a recession really kicks in here in 2023, the year could be even more chaotic than 2020, the COVID year, or 2021, the semiconductor year, or 2022, the year of the war in Europe, COVID in China, semiconductor and supply chain issue in general. So we are not really having some so-called normal years lately. And 2023 could be even worse. But I really think Tesla is in a great position for a recession, as they have the biggest margins on their cars of any car company, so they have a lot more room to play with and no debt and $24 billion in the bank, and they are so much more than just a car company. And I think even if they should be forced to lower their prices of the car to keep their growth going in 2023 in a recession. So this could actually play to Tesla's advantage, as every other car maker is not really earning a meaningful amount of money on their EVs, if any, and they are hardly earning money on their ICE cars. As we all know, they are earning their money on service and repairs. But if their sales of their cars suddenly drops out of the sky because of a recession, that could really hurt their sales numbers, because they are only earning like 5 to 8% on their ICE cars. So they can't really drop their price much to begin with. They normally have very little room to move, but with a recession, that room could completely disappear. And they don't have the agility of Tesla, that can change directions tomorrow if they need to. The old guys will hardly make a decision within the time of a recession. Like we saw with the chip shortage, the old guys are pretty much still struggling with that today, here a couple of years later, while Tesla had made software to 18 different chips within 14 days. So Tesla can and will make changes on the fly, where the old guys can't and won't. So Tesla will also be able to maneuver in a recession much better than any other car company on the planet, probably any other company. And Tesla has the money to go through a long recession if they need to. I know many people think that Volkswagen has a lot of money. Not really. They have a lot of debt as well. And why do you think they IPO'd Porsche? Because they need the cash. Tesla really don't. Remember, as Sandy Munro said, the only real measurement you need to assess a car company is the Altman Z-score. That shows you exactly where the company is, if the company is heading for bankruptcy or in the safe zone. And pretty much all car companies are in the gray or red zone. They are constantly fighting not to go bankrupt, but Tesla is not. They are way above the gray zone. So I'm not worried about Tesla going into a recession, not even a little bit. But I am worried about the old boys that is normally balancing their business on a knife edge, that is now seeing their cash cow, their ICE business, falling out of the sky. Their so-called assets in outdated ICE factories and ICE cars will soon be pretty much worthless, and most of that asset will just turn into real debt instead. And they still lose money on selling their EVs that they are forced to scale up and invest billions of dollars in. And now we will be heading into a recession, and we still have a war going on here in Europe as well. So I really think it's going to be a very difficult year for many of the old automakers. But Tesla has the money to just keep on scaling up their business even through a recession. So I think Tesla will have even a more dominating position in Europe by the end of 2023. As I think the Berlin factory will probably hit something like 350,000 Model Ys produced and sold in 2023. So when we put that into context, that Stellantis in 2022 as an automotive group sold about 160,000 EVs, and the Volkswagen Group will probably end up with something like 270,000 EVs in 2023 in Europe. But next year, Tesla's single factory in Germany will produce something like 350,000 units. That is my conservative guess. And still get the Model 3 from China, the S and X from the US. I think Tesla could even beat the Volkswagen Group in 2023 in Europe. But what about all the competition that we heard from so many automotive analysts were coming for Tesla in 2022 globally? How did they do? Well, BYD seems to end the year off with maybe something like 880,000 BEVs sold. So that is going to take the title in 2022 as the biggest growth story, adding about 560,000 BEVs in growth. So hats off to BYD and congratulations on a very successful year in 2022. So they gained a couple of 100,000 on Tesla in 2022. So very, very impressive. So they were the competition that came for Tesla, but pretty much only in China, as most of BYD's sales are still in China. But that should change here in 2023. But they have shown us they are the real competition. What about GM, the leader in the EV race? Well, GM said 14 months ago that they would absolutely be able to catch up with Tesla by 2025. But how did they do last year? GM's EV growth in 2022 was very embarrassing. Sure, the Wuling Mini EV grew, but they only own a 33% stake in that. But GM's own EV business is quickly becoming the joke of the car industry. Even though they had been producing the Hummer EV the whole year, we are still hardly seeing any on the streets. And the Lyriq has been produced since March. But where are those? So even though the front of the GM earnings report was only EVs, well, EVs still remains about 1% of GM's total sales in 2022. Embarrassing. GM sold about 23,000 EVs for the first 3 quarters. So I don't expect them to do much more than 50,000 units in 2022. So if that is GM really pushing the accelerator to catch up to Tesla by 2025, well, the exponential growth for the last 2 years they have to catch up to Tesla is going to be insane for GM, because they were not competition to Tesla or pretty much anyone else in 2022. And Ford did a better job, but if they are lucky, they might hit 150,000 units with their Mach-E, the Ford F-150 Lightning and the E-Transit globally. So not bad, and a good year for Ford's EVs, but nothing I would call competition to Tesla. They are still 10 times smaller. And Ford is really struggling a bit with quality issues right now. So much so that Jim Farley has been out saying that fixing Ford's quality issue is his #1 priority and is more important than the EVs, as Ford has been the car company in 2022 with the most recalls. And no, not software updates like Tesla, but real recalls. So Ford is having a bit of trouble, but their EVs are doing pretty well, just not near anything I would call competition. But what about the Volkswagen Group globally that said in 2021 and 2022 that they would catch up to Tesla? And many was even out saying that would already happen in 2021, but that clearly didn't happen. But what about 2022? Are they gaining on Tesla now? Well, for the first 11 months, the Volkswagen Group sold about 477,000 BEVs. So if we are very generous for December sales and say that month will be much bigger than all other months in 2022, the Volkswagen Group could end up with something like 530,000 units sold. So let's put that into a little chart here so we can really see the trend of the big mighty Volkswagen Group gaining on Tesla. Oh no, once again they dropped further behind. In 2020, Volkswagen was only 268,000 units behind Tesla. In 2021, they were 485,000 units behind, and in 2022, they were 780,000 units behind. So the Volkswagen Group is only able to produce about 40% of what Tesla does. I had the Volkswagen Group for 650,000 units in 2022, even though Volkswagen said their own target was 750,000. But even my prediction was also too optimistic on Volkswagen. So Volkswagen is about 200,000 units from their target, while Tesla was about 90,000 units from their 50% growth in deliveries that everyone is talking about. So about a 10% miss from Tesla, but we are seeing a lot of headlines that Tesla is missing their target for 2022. But let's see how many mainstream media will pick up the headline that Volkswagen are missing their target by 30%. I think it's not gonna be a lot. So BYD really showed the world in 2022 that they are the real and only competition at the moment. SIAC did also grow pretty nicely in 2022, enough to overtake Volkswagen anyway, that wanted to lead the EV race but has now been going down from the 2nd place in the world to the 4th place. So they're going in the wrong direction. It is clear to see that Tesla is leading the race. BYD is right on their tail, and the other Chinese players are rising up fast. And we know Volkswagen's new CEO, Blume, doesn't really want to push for EVs and has delayed everything to the end of the decade. So Geely could very well overtake them in 2023 as well. And we still need to see Hyundai and Kia really ramping up to high volumes. As you can see here, even the Hyundai Kia group didn't make the top 5 this year. They make great EVs, but they still don't make a lot of EVs. But hopefully they will soon stop all their hydrogen nonsense and focus 100% on BEVs and become part of the real competition for Tesla and BYD. Because if BYD continues like this, they could beat Tesla at some point, but I think Tesla will really pull away in 2023 as Berlin and Texas get to their very high numbers. I had Volkswagen set for 900,000 in 2023 in my prediction tracker to get to their target of 1.5 million in 2025, but with the disappointing 2022, I think that now seems a bit too optimistic. But I'm going to keep that 900,000 because they need to do that if they want to get to their target of 1.5 million in 2025 and stay relevant in the market. But we will see what exciting things 2023 has in store for us. And thank you for watching. And until next time, take care out there and be nice.